Chapter 36. I was zoomed in on Steelheart's face in the rifle scope. I could swear that I saw quite distinctly the bullet hit the side of his head, disturbing his hair. Cody was right on target, but the bullet didn't even break the skin. Steelheart didn't flinch. Enforcement reacted immediately, men shouting, trying to determine the source of the shot. I ignored them, staying focused on Steelheart. He was all that mattered. More shots fired. Cody was making certain he had hit his mark. "Sparks," Cody said. "I didn't catch sight of any of the shots. One of those has to have landed, though." "Can anyone confirm?" Prof asked urgently. "Hit confirmed," I said, eyes still to my scope. "It didn't work." I heard muttered cursing from Tia. "Cody, move," Abraham said. "They've got your location." "Phase 2, Prof said, voice firm. Anxious, but in control. Steelheart turned about with a leisurely air, hands glowing, and regarded the stadium. He was a king inspecting his domain. Phase 2 was for Abraham to blow some distractions and try to get a crossfire going. My role was to sneak forward with the pistol and get in position. We wanted to keep Abraham's positions a secret as long as possible, so he could use explosions to try and move the enforcement officers around. "Abraham," Prof said, "get those—" "Nightwielders moving," Tia interrupted. "Firefight, too." I forced myself to pull back from my scope. Firefight had become a streak of burning light heading toward one of the entrances to the concourse beneath the stands. Nightwielder was moving up in the air. He was flying right toward where I was hiding. Impossible, I thought. He can't. Enforcement started firing from the positions they had set up, but they weren't shooting toward Cody. They were shooting toward other areas in the stands. I was confused for a moment, until the first hidden UV floodlight exploded. "They're on to us!" I cried, pulling back. "They're shooting out the floodlights!" "Sparks!" Tia said as each of the other floodlights exploded in a row, shot out by various members of enforcement. "There's no way they spotted all of those." "Something's wrong here," Abraham said. "I'm blowing the first distraction." The stadium shook as I slung my rifle over my shoulder and climbed out of my hole. I raced up a flight of steps in the stands. The gunfire below sounded soft compared to what I'd experienced a few days ago in the corridor. "Nightwielder is on to you, David," Tia said. "He knew where you were hiding. They must have been watching this place." "That doesn't make sense," Prof said. "They'd have stopped us earlier, wouldn't they?" "What's Steelheart doing?" Cody asked, breathing hard as he ran. I was barely listening. I dashed for the escape hole in the ground up ahead, not looking over my shoulder. The shadows from the seats around me began to lengthen. Tendrils grew like elongating fingers. In the middle of that, something splashed sparks along the steps in front of me. "Enforcement sharpshooter," Tia said. "Targeting you, David." "Got him," Abraham said. I couldn't pick Abraham's sniper shot out of the gunfire, but no further shots came after me. Abraham might just have revealed himself, though. Sparks, I thought. This was all going to calamity really quickly. I hit the rope and fumbled with my flashlight. Those shadows were alive, and they were getting close. I got the flashlight on, shining it to destroy the shadows around the hole, then grabbed the rope with one hand and slid down. Fortunately, the UV light affected Nightwielder's shadows as well as it did him personally. "He's still after you," Tia said. "What?" I asked urgently, holding the rope with the tensor glove, feet wrapped around it to slow my fall. I passed through the open air beneath the third deck of seats, above the second deck. My hand grew hot with the friction, but Prof claimed the tensor could handle that without ripping. I dropped through the hole in the second deck and through the ceiling of the restroom, emerging into the complete darkness of the concourse. This was where things like the concession stands were. At one time, the outside of the place had all been glass, but it was now steel, of course, and so the stadium felt enclosed, like a warehouse. I could still hear gunshots, faint echoing slightly in the hollow confines of the stadium. My flashlight shone mostly UV light through its filter, but it did glow a faint, quiet blue. "Nightwielder sank into the sands," Tia whispered to me. "I lost track of him. I think he did it to hide from the cameras." So we're not the only ones with that trick, I thought, heart thumping in my chest. He'd come for me. He had a vendetta. He knew I'd been the one to figure out his weakness. I shined the flashlight about anxiously. Nightwielder would be on me in a second, but he would know that I was armed with a UV light. Hopefully, that would keep him wary. I unholstered my father's pistol, wielding the flashlight in one hand and the gun in the other, my new rifle slung over my shoulder. I have to keep moving, I thought. If I can stay ahead of him, I can lose him. We had tunnels in and out of places like the restrooms, the offices, the locker rooms, and the concession stands. The UV flashlight gave off very little visible illumination, but I was an understreeter. It was enough. It did have the odd effect of making things that were white glow with a phantom light, and I worried that would give me away. Should I turn off the flashlight and go by touch? No, it was also my only weapon against Nightwielder. I wasn't about to go blind when facing an epic who could strangle me with shadows. I crept down the tomb-like hallway. I froze. What had that been in the shadows ahead? I turned my flashlight back toward it. The light shone across discarded bits of trash that had fused to the ground in the Great Transversion, some formerly retractable stanchions for line control, a few posters frozen on the walls, some more recent trash, glowing white and ghostly. What had I... My light fell on a woman standing quietly in front of me. Beautiful hair that I knew would be golden if I were seeing it under normal light. A face that seemed too perfect, tinged blue in the UV beam, as if sculpted from an ice by a master artist. Curves and full lips, large eyes. Eyes I knew. Megan.